The Five Nights at Freddy's movie, probably the biggest horror game franchise to ever exist, has now been made into a full-length feature film. So, what did I think of it? I thought it was pretty good. I don't have a lot of stuff to say about this movie that hasn't already been said, but I'm gonna make this video anyway because I told you guys I would, so now I have to. So let's just get into it. Oh, and yeah, spoilers if you haven't seen it already. So basically the plot of the Five Nights at Freddy's movies is that this guy, named Michael Schmidt, spends 5 nights at Freddy's. That's pretty much it. He starts off by introducing us to Michael Schmidt and his little sister named Abby, who when I first watched this movie almost believed was his daughter, just because of how old he looks and how young she looks. It's a little weird, but I'll allow it. Anyways, Michael gets fired from his job because he assaults a random guy. That actually happens in the movie. And his boss, this guy, offers him a new job to be a security guard at an old pizzeria. So Mike accepts the job, he works the job, and he sees the robots. The robots try and kill him, and then he takes his sister there because he thinks that she can talk to them because they can tell him they can talk to each other or something. I also forgot to mention that Michael apparently has trauma because of his little brother getting kidnapped. And that's why he works here, because apparently these animatronics somehow know about what happened, or at least that's what he thinks, so that's why he wants Abby to talk to them. It makes more sense, I'm just really bad at explaining it. The animatronics offer Michael a deal, saying that they'll give him back his brother if they can have Abby, which he agrees to, immediately regrets it, and then gets beat up. He escapes, the animatronics kidnap Abby, Michael saves them. This guy named William Afton shows up and beats the hell out of Michael. The animatronics beat the hell out of William. The building beats the hell out of everyone. Michael and Abby go home. The end. Oh, and yeah, and there's a security guard named Vanessa. I don't really like Vanessa. So now that we got the plot out of the way, let's get into the stuff I liked and didn't like about the movie. Let's start with the things I liked. The main thing I liked about the movie was definitely the animatronics. They really perfected the designs of them, and they pretty much seem exactly like they did in the games, and move exactly how they did in the games. And it's exactly what I would have expected from a real-life Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic. The climax of the movie was also pretty cool. William Afton was definitely my favorite part because of how menacing and creepy he looked, and how he beat the hell out of Michael, and how violent he was, and he had a knife. That was cool. And also the scenes where the animatronics actually got to be scary, which isn't a lot in this movie, believe it or not, was also pretty cool. The rest of the film is filled with stuff I either thought was fine or stuff I didn't think was okay. Let's move on to that stuff. One major complaint about the Five Nights at Freddy's movies is how little violence there was. Which, I mean, I guess I can kind of see why that was bad. There were a total of 6 deaths in the film. Half of them happened off-screen, 2 were obscured by something, and the last one was actually pretty cool. I guess it would make sense that there wasn't a lot of violence in this film, given how Five Nights at Freddy's isn't really that old, and a lot of people who grew up with Five Nights at Freddy's movies are either young adults or messed up teens like myself. So yeah, the violence doesn't really bother me, but it kinda is a bit of a letdown. Something else that people were concerned about for the movie was that they would try to make the animatronics friendly and completely strip them of their killer psycho personalities, and that is true for like a decent amount of the middle of the film. Thankfully, the film drops that, and the animatronics return to how they normally act. But during that time, I guess it made sense that the animatronics would act like kids, because they are kids, and it makes sense that they would act like that with Abby, who is also a kid. So I guess that gets a pass. Probably the most major complaint I have about this film is how little we got to see of William Afton. We only see him in the beginning and end of the film, meaning they don't really flesh him out that much as a villain. They don't even mention why he murdered all the children. So yeah, a little more backstory on William would have helped a lot, but I still really liked him at the end. Also, throughout the entirety of this film, he never dresses in purple. Which is weird, because William's literal name is Purple Guy. And you're not gonna make him wear purple? Damn you, Blumhouse. One final complaint about the film is that before the climax, Vanessa explains that electricity can temporarily paralyze the animatronics. She knows this, but she never decided to use it until Mike and his sister got involved, meaning that she could have used it to help save the past night guards, but didn't. I know that some people are going to say that Vanessa's being manipulated by her father, William, so there's nothing she can do. One, she's a cop. It's her job to stop him. And two, why does William need the night guards to die? This goes back to how they never talk about William's motivations in the film. All the Five Nights at Freddy's fans already know why William does what he does, but I don't really think that's a good excuse to just completely cut him out of the film. Despite everything I said, this is still a really good movie. As for a video game adaptation, it did really well. It had everything and more I would expect from a Five Nights at Freddy's movies. The animatronics were amazing, and William Afton was really cool and menacing for the 10 minutes we got to see him for. So yeah, it works great as a video game adaptation. Anyways, yeah, I really liked the movie. It had a few flaws, but it was still pretty good. If only there was one final aspect of the film that could redeem all of its flaws. One final act that could justify every inconvenience this film had. Unfortunately, I don't think it. Anyways, yeah, movie's good. 8.5 out of 10. Bendy's gonna be better though. Bye!